Greetings again, I'm Dafton, and in today's video we are going to delve a little bit more deep into model editing with the help of Unity and 3dsMax. So for actual model editing we are using 3dsMax, Autodesk's software. There will be a link in the description where you can apply for a student license or a free trial version. This video will not be about setting up 3dsMax or downloading it. So we are going to go back to Unity. I expect you to be a little bit familiar with Unity by now from the previous video. So what we are going to do now is import an fmdl file. I decided that we are going to import Ishmael, and we are going to work with his model. So we are coming down to Ish, scenes, and here he is. Ish0 underscore main 0 underscore def. Okay, so now we import into Unity. As you can see, all the textures are in place. Thanks to the textures folder, everything is in order. He has everything. So has the materials, has the Fox model component, everything. Alright, so now we're gonna select him, click on fmdl studio and convert to FBX. FBX files are able to be edited by 3dsMax. Okay, let's save him somewhere. Let's put him here. Yep. As you can see, it's converting to FBX. Checking the console, everything went good. Okay, we are going to not use Unity for now, so I'm going to close it. And now hop into 3dsMax. Okay, so when you first bring up 3dsMax, this will be what you're gonna see. It's a little intimidating with all these grid layouts and gray. It basically screams for you to just close it, but we are not going to do that. First things first, let's talk a little bit about the UI. Okay, so as you can follow the cursor, these four icons will be important to us. But what is even more important to us is these 8 down here below. And before we do anything, we need to set the scale so it matches TPP's scale. For that, I'm going to show you a website called Autodesk Knowledge Network. This is a page that you can always consult if you are getting stuck or wish to learn a little bit more about model editing. Because I don't know how to set up the system unit by heart, I always consult this web page. It is really useful. It sometimes even has cropped out images to help you working with it. So it says that to set up the system units, you need to go to Customize, Unit Setup dialog, click System Unit Setup. Okay, so it was Customize, Unit Setup, System Unit Setup, and we have to make sure that 1 unit equals 1.0 meters. It always should be in meters. So you need to set this up. And you only need to set this up twice. You only need to set this up once, because it will be saved like this. So even if I go to File, Reset, basically reset everything, then go to Unit Setup, System Setup, it will stay. So it's permanent. You only need to do this once, but you are better knowing it, better know about it. Okay, let's go to these 8 icons and click on this one. Okay, so this will be the scene we are working on, or working in, more importantly. Okay, this is the modifier list, this is the hierarchy list, this is the motion list, the display list, and the utilities. What we are going to use here is utilities, but more importantly modifiers. But before we do anything, we should have something to work on. So go to File, Import, Import 3 and let's find Ishmael before he gets bored. Okay, so he was in mods. There he is, and as you can see, 3dsMax already recognized it as a 3D object, the FBX. So open it. Okay, here in this window, there are two ways we can do this, but we will stick with adding, or we could add an update animation. I will tell you a little bit more about add an update animation later. It is a really useful way of importing if you really know your way around bones and meshes. So it is more for the adept users, which sometimes even I'm not an adept. So I used to stick to add because it's foolproof. It is harder to screw things up if you are using add. So let's stick with add, and we are only going to use one model here, only going to edit one model here, so it is better to stick to add. Then click OK. Okay, let it work its magic. You can see the bar under here working. These warnings and errors, most of the times you can ignore these. So this is just warns us that the T-pose binding will not be correct or something. We never had problems coming from this, so you can just ignore this. Click OK. Okay, so here we are. There is Ishmael imported. Don't worry, he's feeling fine, even if there's all those wireframes around him. But before we do anything, I'm going to give you some basic controls. So if you click on the mouse wheel and drag your mouse, you can move around. So this is like the hand tool in Unity. For the left click is always does what is selected from either these icons or these down below. And if you click right click, it will open up a quick menu, which we will not use for now. Alright, so we need to somehow get closer to Ishmael. To do this, we are going to zoom on him a little bit. Okay, this is a comfortable amount. To zoom, all I'm doing is holding down the left mouse button and moving my mouse. Okay, so we need to somehow face Ishmael. There is two ways we can do this. We can use this cube, and here is like front, side, right side, back, top. So we can rotate him around like this. Or sorry, we can rotate around him like this. Yeah. Even in this angle. Alright, but we also have a tool here that allows us to freely rotate. So we are not bound by the cube. We can do this way. It gives us final control. Alright. So what else? This is the select object tool. This is the select and move tool. This is the select and rotate tool. And select an uniform scale. These are what we are going to use mostly. Okay, so we need to now have some info about the skeletons and the mesh. And on the left hand side it may or may not appear a list, just like in Unity. If it's not here, like for me, there's no problems. You just go to Tools, and go to Scene Explorer, and it will open up. So you can see here again, here is Ishmael, the FBX, and this should be familiar. It is just like in Unity, the meshes and the skeleton. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about Scene Explorer. Here is where you load again all the models. Here is where you can rename, rearrange them. For example, here are these little icons. By clicking on these, you can hide things. For example, I'm gonna select Ishmael's right arm, so mesh 9, and if I wish it to become invisible, it's gonna be still here. It's just not gonna be visible for the editor. It will disappear. So this is really useful if you, let's say, want to edit his shoulder, but these parts are in the way. So it's like bang. Don't worry, he always has a hole in his chest because it's just not modeled. Okay. And if you wish to see more about his face, you can just click on root, for example. So these are the skeletons. Click on right click and say select child nodes. You now selected all the skeletons the model has. So if we click on the view icon, bang, the nodes are not longer visible. It's far more easier to edit it this way. But for now, we're going to do the reverse. So let the bones up, select all the meshes, and bang. and here is the bone. The bone is responsible for all the animations, and to the bone are the meshes are attached. And they are not only attached, they are being quote-unquote told how should they behave when the bone moves. But how do they know how should they behave? Is right here in the skin modifier. So in the modifier list skin, you will see the bones that are attached to. So again, select his right arm, and here are the bones. So we can see that the right arm mesh is connected to the chest, right hand side, right underarm, right forearm, and all these other things, for example, like right elbow and things like that. This is part of rigging. We will talk about it a little bit more later, but we are still going to ramble about the UI. Okay, so now we are at the meshes. Meshes have skins, and of course meshes have, well, a lack of a better term, a body or a mesh that we can also edit. Keep that in mind that the skin modifier depends on the mesh. So when we are deleting from the mesh or editing the mesh in any other way, the skin modifier will be modified by it, and it also influences the mesh. Okay, but how can we edit a mesh? For example, we can select vertices, edges, faces, polygons, and elements. Let's see, if I click on vertices, we can see the vertices that made up the mesh. Or we can click on faces, and let's say I'm gonna select these faces. So this is what how the mesh is made up, basically. I mean, someone who is more professional than me could tell you a little bit more about it, but I try to explain it as easy as possible. Or we can go by elements, and let's say the whole arm. But if I were to select his hand, and I would click on elements, I suspect that if I click on his thumb, only the thumb will be selected. Alright, so let me show you. Let's select these vertices. And let's say that we want to introduce a hole into Ishmael's arms. So now we are just going to push delete. And here you can see how it behaves. So let's say that we are dissatisfied with this hole. We don't want it to be here. So we click on edit and undo. You can only undo a certain amount. So I really advise you to always go onto file and save as. You can save the scenes. Alright. And before quitting editing a mesh, you should always make sure that nothing is selected. So if I'm going here to face and I'm clicking away, for example, then clicking back to mesh 9, you can see I'm on the skin modifier, but the editable mesh is still active. So it will deny a lot of other things unless I finish editing the mesh. So I must come back here, click on face, click back on skin, and now it's free. So 3dsMax is a little bit complex. It can a little bit be intimidating, but if you're mindful about your clicks, it will work fine. Okay, what else I could tell you about? So the modifiers list has tons of options. You are not going to need most of these. For example, what I had to use is mostly editing normals. Normals we will get back to a little bit later, or mirroring, or X4. That's all. I will talk about them later when they come up. Okay. Let me see what I have to talk about. Alright, so export units 3dsMax UI. Cool. So how about we do something that will have consequences, because we also like to live dangerously. Let's get back to the hand for a moment. So here in the skin modifier we can see the bones. These basically not only the attaching points, but these all have data that are called envelopes. If I click on edit envelopes and then turn the camera in a way that you can see more about it, let's say let's see, to the chest, you can already see some coloration. The coloration is the indicator of the vertices, faces, and all the things that are being affected by the weights. The weights are the information that tell the mesh how to behave in correlation to the bone. So we cannot see much about the chest, but how about we say right underarm? Oh, there it is. So the right underarm bone is somewhere here, exactly. And mesh 9 reacts to it because it is connected to the bone and also has information regarding the bone. So we're gonna quit editing envelopes and we're going to demonstrate it by opening it up a little bit, the skeleton structure. Okay, so right hand side, right underarm, right forearm. So here's right underarm. Let's rotate it a bit. Same thing applies here. So rotation and moving of the bone can break the model. So anytime you do this, you only should do rotating to see if the skinning is correctly applied or not. So for example, I'm going to rotate it now and you will see it behave correctly. Good. But I should not leave it like this. I should come to edit and undo rotation. Because otherwise I would not be able to export it anymore. Alright, cool. What else I can tell you about here in this? Let me see the runtime. Oh, we are going for over 15 minutes now. Alright. So what? Let's do some editing. I know for sure that Ishmael actually has a face underneath all these bandages. So select the bandage and for this moment just hide it. Select the bandage again and hide it. And I want to see more of his face, so I'm going to click on this root of the skeleton, select all the child nodes, make it invisible. Cool. Okay, he looks like this because the materials are not applied here correctly. So this should not worry you. Unless you are a little bit afraid of the medic's face. Okay, and as you can see, Mesh 39 not only has bandages on the face, but bandages on the arm. So I want to remove the bandages from the face, but I would like to keep the bandages on his arm. What should I do? To do this, I need to come to editable mesh. So mesh 39, editable mesh. And go by vertices or faces or elements. We are going to go by faces now. Let's front him. Select the select object and select the vertices. Or faces, sorry. So now what I'm gonna do is just hit delete, sorry. Bang. So it stays here, the bandages stay here. There are no more bandages on his face. And to make sure that there are no more bandages on his face, I make mesh 39 visible. And since mesh 39 only have bandages on the face, I will just right click on it and delete. And it's not updated yet, but look, I click once, bang, it's updated. Okay, so here is mesh 39. And you could argue that, okay, mesh 39 has the bandages on the arm, but mesh 39 also connects to the neck, head, so on and so forth. Is it safe to delete these bones right now or not? Well, actually, not deleting these bones will not cause any errors, so I tend to keep them here. But that again depends on later down what sort of model are we editing, because for example the player model has a limitations on how many skeletons it can have before it crashes the game. But otherwise, if you're not encountering any issues, I advise you to keep all the bones intact, even if there is no mesh parts that are attached to it. For example, you can see the neck. I click on edit envelopes and nothing changes on the bandage on the arm, so it's not affected by it. And to further show this, I'm going to select the neck, going to rotate around the neck bone, and even if it's attached, it has no weight, so it has no effect on his arm. I'm telling you this because whenever you are skinning an object, you are best always rotate the bones to see if everything is in order. And if your object that remains static, that means that there is an error, that the weights are not correct. Here it is simply not moving because it doesn't have any weights attached to the neck. But if I want to say right hand and edit envelopes, you can see a heat map here. So I'm gonna close it, find the right hand, so right hand side, right arm, right forearm, right hand. Let's move it. You can see it moving. But somehow the mesh underneath doesn't move, which is sort of unexpected for me too. So here I'm going to try to figure out why. It could very well be because, and yes, because I kept the face editor intact. So don't let this fool you. If you are not closing this, it will not allow the mesh to move. So remember what I just did? I went to editable mesh, deleted the bandages, but kept the face open. Or not the face, kept the editor open. By keeping the editor open, I prevented the mesh from reacting to the bone. So it gave me a false positive that the weights are bad. And it can screw up all the editing, because I will think that I messed up something, and even though I messed up something, it is not the thing that I was thinking about. Alright, so close it, go back to skin, and you can still see the weights correct. Okay, let's take the hand again, rotate the hand. Now it's working correctly. So 3dsMax has a little, has some little tiny nuances like this that are not really told you anywhere, no in tutorials, aside from this one, of course. But this is something that I just became aware like 3 weeks ago. So if you are using 3dsMax, don't do it alone. Or I mean that just ask for help, because everybody is trying to figure it out still. There are some issues that we are still running into, and the more heads thinking about an issue, I believe, the faster we can solve it. Okay, so we have Ishmael here with a clean face. I wish to have Ishmael in my game with a clean face, so what I'm going to do now is select him. We know that he's responding correctly, so the bones are moving well, the meshes are okay. Even if the meshes are untextured, that should not worry you. This is just an added bonus by setting up the texture folder. Alright, so how I will make Ishmael go back to Unity? That's easy. Click on File, click on Export, and let's say that I'm going back to Mod Tutorial, Mods, here is Ishmael. But I would like to keep a 3D object of Ishmael with a mummy head on too. So let's say there will be Ishmael Beth with clean face. Here you don't really have to do anything, just click OK. If you did everything correctly, it will export. It can give you an error message. If you encounter an error message, please consult somebody on Discord. Okay, so this is for now about 3dsMax, I believe. But before we go out, I would like to have some fun. So let's say that Ishmael is either Bigfoot himself or stepped into a beehive. So we can select multiple meshes at once. You can see it even selected some of this. Can we call this a skirt? I don't think it's a skirt, but whatever it is, it eludes my mind. Okay, so what we are going to do is just enlarge his feet. By how, you may ask. This will not be a permanent thing, but we will demonstrate what the scaling can do. So here he's not really a triangle. Again, I don't know the English term for it, but we have the z, x, y axis. So let's say I want to make his legs wider. So you can see it becoming wider. Or how about making it taller? Or how about making it as large as it can? See, this is what the scaling can do. The rotate tool we already talked about. You should only use the rotate tool to either position meshes that are not skinned yet, or to see if bones are behaving correctly. The move tool is again on the 3D axis. You can move the meshes, the vertices, anything basically. Alright, I'm gonna open up Unity now. Let's close 3dsMax. I'm not gonna save this scene. I'm going to load up mod tutorial. We are almost going for like half an hour now. Okay, so here we are. And let's say that I want Ishmael here with his clean face. So I'm going here to the assets, this area, right click, import new asset. And here he is, Ishmael clean face. And what you're gonna see now is what you have seen in the previous video, is that, okay, Ishmael is here. Ishmael doesn't have the bandages anymore, but Ishmael looks like a sculpture. Yes, this is something that we are gonna address in the next video. Sorry for leaving you at a cliffhanger, but this is all before this one, and see you next time.